Viva Pete Senor! We are delighted to bring you Palmgrass, the Cebu Heritage Hotel's interpretation of the pre-colonial Sinulog dance. Did you know that the word Sinulog traces its roots to the island of Sulu? Over the centuries, it has evolved into two versions. The candle vendor Sinulog, rooted in the pre-colonial Cebu rituals of the Babaylan, and the war dance Sinulog, with its roots in the martial arts and war dances of Sulu. We invite you to experience the pre-colonial dance prayer. Our performance showcases the ancient deities of the Visayas, including Inaginid, the deity of war and poisons, Makandok, the deity of raids, and Barangaw, the deity of the rainbow. A Babaylan healing dance ritual, the Pangalay, a traditional martial arts and meditation dance from the Tausug of Sulu. Sulu Puntao, a sacred and deadly martial arts, Arnis, the martial art of Cebu, and the Kinampilan steps. When the Santo Niño arrived, it was revered by the natives as a deity of rain. In this version of Sinulog, the dancers honored the Santo Niño without carrying it in their arms, reflecting the early Cebuano tradition of venerating the Santo Niño in altars or karo during processions. Dance to the beat of the gong as the Bagong Teatro Ongkera dancers perform a dance of war, praise, thanksgiving, and petition to the child Jesus. Viva Pete Senor!
Pete Senior, Palmgrass de Cebu Heritage Hotel, in partnership with the Tres de Abril Foundation Incorporated, the Diandi Heritage Center, and in partnership also as Palmgrass, the Cebu Heritage Hotels, Galeria Independencia is a proud member of the Central Visayas Association of Museums. We present to you this afternoon a special Sinulog presentation and event entitled Diwata og Santo Niño, Tracing the Pre-Colonial Sinulog Roots. Daghang salamat to those who are on site. Daghang salamat to those the teachers and students of the Don Bosco Technical College. Sakto, pagkasulti. Daghang salamat. So, I remember, it was actually Father Randy Figuracion, SDB, who said that they would want to join the event today. Daghang salamat. Is Father Randy already around? Wala pa. Wala. So, daghang salamat to the students and teachers of the Don Bosco, and also to everyone who is here right now on site very early. I will mention your names later, and also daghang salamat to those online this afternoon. So you have seen, we congratulate the Bagong Chatrongkera for their version of the Sinulog dance, which is conceptualized to be before the Spaniards came. So you have seen, kinahanglan ako explain, ano, in the introduction. They will actually perform again later, and they would perform more bloody ritual. So actually, our ancestors and even the indigenous peoples today would always have offering for the deities or for the diwata, for the ancestors, for the ancestral spirits to whom they worship or they revere. So you have seen in that ritual that our ancestors, the Visayan ancestors, we mentioned the deities of war because according to some historians, or to, for example, Dr. Risil Mujares in this book, The Feast of the Santo Niño. So he also was here in 2019, and our staff here at Palmgrass de Cebu Heritage Hotel had in 2019 January, they had a Sinulog dance interpretation. A national artist for literature and historian, Dr. Risil Mujares, was saying, when he saw the performance, he mentioned that the Sinulog actually is a Muslim war dance, was a Muslim war dance. So that's what he said. So we told him that this, the next Sinulog, we would be performing our own interpretation of the Sinulog dance. So we request our dancers backstage to, pwede ka walang storya? So now we went actually as far as Sulu to trace the Sinulog roots. So because in this book by Dr. Risil Mujares, he mentioned that Sinulog comes from the word Sulu. So it was only in the 17th century that the Sinulog was in the dictionary, in the 1611 dictionary. It was already mentioned, the word Sinulog or Sulu, Sinulog is, it refers to, you will see that in our video, tracing the Sinulog roots to Sulu. So this afternoon, we will have, we will be screening that video again. So we first showed that in 2020, Sinulog 2020, and we had here a Tausug professor, Professor Darwin Absari of the UP Diliman Institute of Islamic Studies, and also Professor Jobers Reyners Bersales in that event where we showed the Sinulog, tracing it to Sulu. And we will show that video again this afternoon. And we will also have a special performance by the Babaylan of UP Cebu, veteran theater performer and also an indie film actress. We will have later Professor Ligaya Rabago. And we will present again the pre-colonial Sinulog dance by the Bagong Teatro Honquera after the conversations with our resource person this afternoon. So daghang salamat to mi Daniel Nino Paclihan of the USC Museum. Daghang salamat for joining us this afternoon. Daghang salamat to Minerva Taladhay. O Taladhay, please tell us from where you are watching in the Philippines or in the world. Judalyn Taghoy of Cebu Tour Guides. Daghang salamat for joining us this afternoon. And also Raul Buzon, a graduate of history from the University of San Carlos. He is now watching from BLP Commercial. And also, yes, please tell us from where you are watching in the Philippines. Maayong hapon and Viva Pit Senior. Maayong hapon sa tanan. So, and of course, we are celebrating this month, of course, Sinulog 2025. And we invite you to our celebration. We are so happy, actually, that there are so many who have joined the different activities of the Sinulog. We have seen the Walk with Jesus, the opening salvo of the Sinulog. And also, there would be processions in the succeeding days. And the solemn foot procession is just a few meters away from Palmgrass. And we're so happy that Palmgrass is fully booked on Saturday and Sunday. So we were also fully booked actually last year because we are just a few meters away, a few steps away from the Basilica del Santo Niño. And we invite you to watch the pre-colonial Sinulog dance from January 17 to 20 or 21 in the morning. So our Bagong Teatro Honquera would be demonstrating and teaching you how to dance the Babaylan dance or the Sinulog dance steps, and the other steps mentioned in our version of the Sinulog. So that would be from Friday until the Monday morning. Our Bagong Teatro Honquera would be also presenting and performing and demonstrating and teaching you how to dance the steps of our version of the Sinulog dance. So we recognize our partners. We mentioned them. There's the Abril Foundation Incorporated, Palmgrass, Galeria Independencia, our mini gallery outside of this hall is a member of the Central Visayas Association of Museums, and we are also a member of the Diandi Heritage Center. So we would like to thank our participants who registered online. We have those who come from the University of Cebu, from the University of the Visayas, from St. Teresa's College, Don Bosco Technical College, Cebu, Cebu Normal University, Talisay City College, Southwestern University, University of San Jose Recoletos, also from University of Cebu Banilad, Don Sergio Osmeña, Cebu Normal University, balik na, UP Cebu, Flag Tour Guides, UC, Lapu-Lapu and Mandaue, and students from the Tejero National High School who are members of our Bagong Teatro Honquera, and also the students from the Cebu Eastern College. Daghang salamat for joining us here at Palmgrass de Cebu Heritage Hotel. So now, we would like you to know that we would be actually reading your questions for our resource person, as we go along our conversations, and we will also have an open forum at the end of the conversations, and at the end of the conversations will be another performance of the Bagong Teatro Honquera, and in between the conversations, we will have the ritual of the Babaylan by our guest Babaylan from UP. And so we invite you in our upcoming events. So this January, we still have another event, the Cults of the Holy Family, with history professor Laila Labajo from the University of San Carlos. This is about the cults in Cebu, on the Holy Family. And then on February 14, we invite you to another exciting Valentine event. Every year, every Valentine's Day, we actually trace our pre-colonial love practices or sex practices. And this February 14, last year we discussed iyot og relihiyon and how our ancestors rejected the new religion because they wanted the old religion that 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 let them practice their ancient practices in love and physical intimacies. And because and a year before that, we also had a our event was Iyot Ugubat, how our ancestors launched revolts and wars because of the prohibition of the physical intimacies that they practiced. So, and we had before that also in 2021, we had the power of women in bed and politics 500 years ago. And we had also another discussion, it's music and love. It's not anymore physical intimacies, but we discussed also at that time the the practices of our indigenous peoples that they actually follow the possessions that they see among the birds and the animals in the forest. So it's it was one of our events in Valentine's Day. So this Valentine's Day is another exciting Valentine's Day event where we discuss how our ancestors raided other places to look for um, uh, for a partner or wives la? For or to look for a wife. And so it's raiding iyot og pangayaw. So pangayaw is our term for raiding. And the Visayans in pre-colonial times were the terror of the seas in Asia or in Southeast Asia. They raided as far as China. So you have seen also you saw that blue something. It actually signifies the sea that our ancestors the warriors were already raiding to other places with after they invoke the deities of war, the deities of poison, the deities of war, poisons, and the deity of the rainbow. And so those are the deities mentioned by Miguel de Luarca in the late 1500s in his book about Relación de las Islas Filipinas. So and on February 28, we invite you to the ikasiyam nga tuig sa Kapihan ni Lumaya. Our restaurant opened ahead of Palmgrass. Our Palmgrass the Cebu Heritage Hotel's grand opening was in 2017, April 3, 2017, but February 28, 2016 was already the opening of our restaurant, our heritage restaurant, where you will eat and drink dishes in honor of our heroes in Cebu. So I would also like you to know that actually January 15 in 2016, there were already a few rooms at Palmgrass that already opened. So there were a few rooms that already opened, already not less than 10, and there was no elevator yet. So Sinulog happened in January. So there was one guest who came here because he was saying that wanted to look for a place where he could stay. So he and his wife was already so tired. They were walking from capital area, the capital area, going here, and they were praying to the Santo Niño because all the places were booked. And so they were praying to the Santo Niño to help them find a place. And they passed by Palmgrass the Cebu Heritage Hotel, and they said, and there were a few rooms offered still. So he said that their prayers were answered by the Santo Niño. It's one of the stories that we always look back to. So also, we would like you to know also that this month, January 1, it's one of our today in history, but we did not post it because in January 1, it's New Year's Day. In 1571, how many years ago was that? So, 400 plus years ago, on January 1, 1571, Legazpi declared Cebu as the first Spanish town in the colony, Villa de Santissimo Nombre de Jesus. So this was 1571, was also the year when the Spaniards went to Manila, because a few years before that, di ba, you already know that the Spaniards came back after the Battle of Mactan. When was the Battle of Mactan? 1521. And that was what date sa atong mga students in Don Bosco? When was the Battle of Mactan? History teacher, ala, si history teacher in, napa ba history class? Do we still have history subjects in grade school? Do we still have history subjects? Araling Kanlipunan. So, when was the Battle of Mactan? April 27, 1521. And when did the Spaniards came back to Cebu? 44 years later, which is on what date? Do you know what date was Kaplag, or when they found the Santo Niño in one of the houses in Cebu? Pero are dates important, or the most important thing are the things are the lessons we learn from history? so what date was the arrival of the Santo Niño in I mean not or the finding of the Santo Niño? What date was that? April. Yeah, April. Ano sa to? What date did the Spaniards came back? What was the date when the Spaniards came back to Cebu? In 1565. April 27. It was actually exactly 44 years after the Battle of Mactan. They came back to Cebu. Tupas burned the granary so that the Spaniards wouldn't have anything to eat. So the Cebuanos created artificial food scarcity. They actually prevented goods from coming in to Cebu, even if Cebu was the center of trade, one of the centers of trade in Southeast Asia at that time. So they did not provide food for the Spaniards, and even the neighboring islands wouldn't provide food for the Spaniards, because there was an alliance of the chiefs in Visayas and Mindanao. So they were forced to go to Panay, especially after the Portuguese attack, when the Spaniards were already eating rats. So one friar was saying, Cebu is a very fertile land, but we have nothing to eat. So they had to go to Panay in 1569. The natives burned the Spanish settlement, Villa de San Miguel. When they went to Panay, they burned it. And before Legazpi went to Manila in 1570, he came back in 1570 and declared on January 1, 1571, the first Spanish town in the colony, Villa Santissimo Nombre de Jesus. So it's the most holy name of Jesus. So it was actually, so they were still able to successfully occupy Cebu. So that was in 1594 that the title of ciudad was conferred to Sugbo. So that's our short today in history. Is it short? So our references are Dr. Rizel Mojares in Dakbayan, A Cultural History of Space in a Visayan City, T. Valentino Sitoy, A History of Christianity in the Philippines, and also some researches, our interviews from doctors, from historians, Doctors Jobers Bersales and Dr. Rolando Borinaga. So, daghang salamat to everyone for joining us. Wala pa mo musulti from where you are watching in the Philippines right now. So, we have Minerva is from Taguig City and Pateros. Daghang salamat, Minerva, for joining us. And thank you to the teachers and supervisor of the Araling Panlipunan of Taguig City and Pateros, the DepEd Taguig City and Pateros. So now we would like to introduce to you our resource person this afternoon. So our resource person this afternoon has been our resource person in many of our history discussions. So we had him first as our resource person in the topic the nudity and fashion in pre-colonial Visayas, and we also had him as a resource person in our discussion of the amulets of Leon Kilat, and also in our discussion of Yawa as a pre-colonial deity of the Visayans, and also the discussion on the enchanted cities in the Visayas, and also other topics. so, so he is the editor of the University of San Carlos Philippine Quarterly of Culture and Society Journal. He is the Visayas representative and secretary of the Executive Council of the National Commission for Culture and the Arts National Committee on Historical Research. He is a lifetime member of the Philippine National Historical Society, and he was awarded the Young Historians Prize in 2014 by the National Committee on Historical Research of the Philippines, of the NCCA in 2015. He was awarded the 9th Virginia Miralao Excellence in Research by the Philippine Social Science Council in 2021. And his research interests include Leyte summer studies, local history, social movements, environmental history, and community resilience studies. He was actually also our resource person in Diwata, Santo Niño versus mga Diwata. That was in the Sinulog of 2022. So, 2023. So we had him as a resource person because his study showed that the Visayans attributed the pestilence and some disasters in early Spanish occupation because the Diwatas of the Visayas were angry because of the devotion to the Santo Niño. So that they attributed the disasters that happened because of the anger of the Diwata because of the new religion. So of course we would also know later how the Santo Niño was regarded by the natives as a Diwata. So you have seen, but not as like the Visayas why Diwata. He was just a Diwata in Cebu. But later, the devotion to the Santo Niño spread to the other parts of the Visayas. So our resource person also got his doctoral in history at the University of Hull at the United Kingdom, and he is an associate professor of history in the Department of Anthropology, Sociology, and History at the University of San Carlos. So everyone, it's our pleasure and we are so happy to have with us once again our resource person this afternoon, Dr. George Emmanuel Borinaga.
Maayong hapon, Ma'am Agripina, and maayong hapon sa atong viewers, both in person and online.
So, daghang salamat to Dr. George. So, now before we start with our questions for Dr. George, we would like to show you the video that we told you about, the video tracing the Sinulog roots to Sulu. So, this is the video created by Social Communications Asia's Prospero Lapot, produced by Palmgrass, the Cebu Heritage Hotel. The Sinulog, the Sulu roots.
Sinulog is a fiesta celebrating the Santo Niño of Cebu. People come to the city to pray, light candles, and dance to honor and ask favors from the baby Jesus. The Sinulog, as a big festival in Cebu, only began in the 1980s, but the practice of Sinulog dance prayer had been performed earlier than that.
Viva, Señor Santo Niño, Diyos na mahal na si anak.
According to national artist and historian Rasil Mojaras, the Sinulog word as a dance in Cebu appeared in the contemporary Cebuano dictionary only in the last century. A 17th century Cebuano dictionary referred to Sinulog's root word sulug to mean water current or the island of Sulu. It also defines Sinulog as a Tausug woman's dress. The Tausug are the native people of Sulu.
If any Tausug can hear the word Sinulog, they can easily relate to it because it sounds very familiar to their everyday usage of the word. You know, we have a Tausug word sulug, which means current. We have a word, for example, siulug, which means to wear.
Professor Darwin Absari of the University of the Philippines Institute of Islamic Studies writes about the history of Sulu. He speaks from the old trading landmark, the Chinese pier in Holo, Sulu.
From 1200 to 1450, Sulu became the economic zone in the international sea trade. Products coming from outside, Champa, Java, before it will be brought to other parts of the country, it will first arrive here in this place.
The influence of Sulu in the Visayas ran through the trading routes and principalities the Sultanate established in the western islands of the Philippines. The spread of cultures and practices accompanied the trade linkages across settlements in the Old World. Cebuano anthropologist and social historian Professor Jose Eleazar Bersales examined the writings of Antonio Pigafetta. Pigafetta accompanied Ferdinand Magellan, who represented Spain in talks with Cebu chief Raja Humabon in the 1500s.
Humabon had an advisor who was a Muslim. He is mentioned in Pigafetta. It is clear in Pigafetta that Enrique de Malacca talked with a Mohammedan. He's described as Mohammedan, who was in the court of Humabon.
The presence of a Muslim holding a high position in the court of Humabon validates the map showing Panay Island as a principality of the Sultanate of Sulu. The 1500s map indicates that Cebu belonged to the region under the influence of the Sultanate. The strength of the Sulu influence in the Visayas was further confirmed when the word Sinulog found its way in the 1890s accounts of Felix Laureano. Laureano cites Sinulog as the name of a fiesta dance in Panay Island depicting a battle between the Moro and the Christian.
And there he says that Sinulog is a very ancient form of competition or of jousting that comes from the Holoanos. And he says, but he saw this in Haro, Iloilo, being performed during a town fiesta.
Holo is the capital of the Sulu Sultanate.
So therefore, you have a contextual source which is further than the one we see today, the Sinulog, which as a festival, which began in the 1980s.
Professor Absari confirms that fighting tournaments, horse racing, and other entertainment performed in front of the Sultan were a common practice in Sulu.
This art of defense is part of the culture, simply because their homeland was under siege by various foreign powers. So showing it as an entertainment is one way of teaching the younger generations and the society in general the need to know this knowledge, the need to develop this knowledge as a way of defense in their homeland.
Sulu had been a melting pot of diverse cultures from the Hindu, Malay or Srivijaya, and the Chinese civilizations. While pagan culture of much of the Philippines was suppressed by the Spanish occupation, Sulu kept the various influences in their culture, as shown in their dances. Some of the movements remain identical to the physical and spiritual practices in ancient India. The Chinese martial arts influence remains obvious in other dances. The Sulu martial arts dance that sometimes uses bladed weapons has a different narrative from that of Panay. The Moro versus Christian narrative, according to a study by Sally Ness, was introduced by the Augustinians, the first Catholic religious order that arrived in the Philippines.
So you have a combination of a Holoano origin and a Christian origin.
But why is it that other Sulu dances did not evolve in the Christian lands occupied by Spain?
Because you have to realize that the islands were not separated until the Spaniards came. Christianity put a damper on the trading relations all over the islands.
And along with it came the barriers that greatly suppressed cultural influences that moved through these pre-colonial trade routes. The survival of the battle dance sequence in Lariana's account can be explained by its local popularity.
They must have seen the Moro, the original Sulu dance performed in one of the fiestas, and it's easy to say, let's use the other one as a Christian, and he wins always.
The Moro versus Christian narrative used by the Spaniards was very relevant at that time, as Spain struggled but failed to convert Muslim Sulu to Christianity.
The whole Comedia series in the Spanish literature is like that, no? Christians defeating Muslims, because southern Spain was occupied by the Moros, for a long time. And they had that mentality when they came here. And then you have the evolution of the Sinulog as a Christian tradition. No longer the Sulu war dance that it originally started from. And so today, it has barely any resemblance to the actual war dance. If you look at the Sinulog category, it's really a modern version.
There are various theories on how the Sinulog evolved over the centuries. But from what we have seen in the studies we came across, we can say that Sinulog's evolution at a certain point in history was influenced by the culture of Sulu.
My name is Engineer Absar Esgapol, instructor in Sulu State College. At the same time, I am coach in Pencaksilat, also in Puntao. Hindi na. Dahil sa sayaw and then spiritual and then paniniwala sa Allah Subhanahu wa Ta'ala. Walang dolin. Amin. Sabi ng mga ninuno namin, ang lakas ng oil, malakas kaysa suntok. Pag hindi ka na matatamaan ng oil, ang suntok parang wala.
So at that time, so we went to Sulu, and also we experienced because Dr. Risil Mujares, our historian and national artist for literature, was saying that Sinulog was actually a Muslim war dance. So you have seen that in the video. Although we have that also, that video is published at the Palmgrass de Cebu Heritage Hotel YouTube channel. You would see two versions of that video. There is the Sinulog with Sinulog the Sulu roots and Sinulog the Sulu roots with explainer. It has an animation of how the Centennial came to Cebu. So, and also the miracles of the Santo Niño. So, you would see in that video, at that time, our Bagong Chatrong Kera dancers already used the steps of Pangalay. It is a meditation dance. And Kuntao, it is also a martial arts war dance in Sulu. So we have seen the youth there in Sulu that who were very good actually. They still know their culture. They still know how to dance their traditional war meditation dances. You have seen them dance the Pangalay with, you know, really like a yoga position. It's like yoga poses. And also, they showed us in that video, you have seen that, they showed us that before they would go to war, they would go to a battle, they would actually pray and have a ritual with their weapon. And it is also the same in the Visayas. So, to those online, is our audio okay? Ang diri sa ato sa on-site kay we have a problem with our audio. So our ancestors, in all their activities, they had rituals. So when they would go to war, their bladed weapons should already had poisons in them. So Dr. Rolando Bernaga was first Visayas historian, first told us that the weapons of our ancestors of the Visayans had poisons in them. Not just the arrows, but also the bladed weapons. And it was also another historian, Dr. Feliz Rodriguez, formerly of the Ateneo de Manila University, who told us that a warrior would always bring with him an antidote for the poison. So they would bring antidotes, poisons and antidotes. So that is also our topic in our tracing of the healing heritage of the Visayas. When we interviewed a toxicologist, we have not yet published it on YouTube, but you would see that in our discussion in October 2024 about the Visayas healing heritage. We have an event about that. And our ancestors were pharmacologists, toxicologists, they were healers, they practiced surgery. So those practices already were were already seen by the Spaniards when they came to the Visayas. So because of our common heritage of our ancestors, we have seen that in Pigafetta in 1521, he was already mentioning that our ancestors were playing gongs. Their musical instruments were the gong and the kutchap, the two-string lutes and also the jaw harp. And so you would see that in our gallery. So one of our guests earlier, a few years ago, was asking, I thought this showcases Cebu culture, and why do we have Muslim musical instruments? So you would see in that video that we had already a trading relationship with the Muslims, and one Muslim was an advisor, was the one who advised Humabon on what to do with the Spaniards who just came. And when they also came here, they saw a pag-anito or a pagdiwata ritual, and they were slaughtering a pig. So they had relations with the Muslims, but they were also, like, they practiced animism. So we would like you to know, at Palmgrass de Cebu Heritage Hotel, Sinugatan, Gifts from Cebu, we have items from the Maranao and also from the Tausug. So we have the batik malong available at our sinugatan gifts from Cebu. So aside from that, we have also the tubao. They're using actually the Maranao. This is from a Maranao, and also the batik. We have different kinds of batik shirt at our sinugatan gifts from Cebu. The first two that we displayed was sold immediately. So we asked from the Maranao that they would actually saw these items, and also the patadyong. The patadyong in Maranao and in Tausug, or in the Muslim areas, it's worn by the men. But here in the Visayas, we know the patadyong as worn by the women. So so now we would like to ask our resource person our questions. So is our audio now okay? Okay na ta? Di pa? Sige lang, padayon ra ta? Okay ra. So how about those daghang salamat to from the University of San Carlos Museum curator Regina Yoma for watching, and also Puchi Ox is saying okay, the audio is okay online. So, and Donna Torion is watching from Taguig City and Pateros, and Ferdinand Pagao is watching, tumutunghay mula sa sangay ng paaralan ng lungsod ng Taguig at bayan ng Pateros. So we thank Ferdinand Pagao, who was also a curator of a museum on Andres Bonifacio, because before encouraging the teachers in Taguig City and Pateros for joining our heritage events. And John Day Bakuli is watching from Alaska, Mambaling, Cebu City, and also yes, Dudong Milan from the Flag Tour Guides, and Marie Bioy is watching also from Taguig. So, dahang salamat. So, to those who have questions, we invite you to write your answers, to your questions and comments at our Facebook Live event. For those on-site, there is also an open forum at the end of the conversations, and we also invite you to join our trivia quiz with exciting prizes. So there is one question for the on-site audience, and one question for everyone, but will be on-site and online, but will be answered through the comment section of this Facebook Live event. So now we would like to ask Dr. George about the deities and spirits venerated by the Visayans before the arrival of the Santo Niño in 1521.
Okay, can I have
The
the
slides.
slides, please? So at the Spanish contact, the Visayans, as we are already aware, they were animists, so they were worshiping not only their ancestors but also various environmental spirits. So in the case of their ancestors, as Alcina had related, these were the closest to our ancestors, so most of their prayers were often addressed sa ilang mga apuhan, katong mga namatay na, and more distant ancestors that were often associated with various environmental hazards. So they were known as the Diwatas, whereas the ancestors were known as the Umalagad. But there were two that Alcina and other chroniclers, including si Father Chirino, mga Jesuit ni sila nga mga missionaries, who mentioned nga their greatest Diwatas were two mother and child nga Diwatas. Sila Malaon, who was the mother, and associated with Mount Canlaon in Negros. We are familiar, diba, recently there was volcanic activity in Mount Canlaon. And the son was called Makapatag, based siya sa, or at least sa narratives, based in Homonhon. And judging by the descriptions, including the name, kay Makapatag might have been associated with mga super typhoons. Kay ang Yolanda in 2013, the 1897 typhoon and many other of the strongest typhoons that have made landfall in the Philippines or even the world, kay diha sila moagi sa Homonhon nga area. In fact, this was the first landfall of Yolanda and the other nga mga very powerful typhoons. So the name Makapatag suggests nga everything it passed through, maagian sa diwata kay murag ma-flatten siya. So the description by Alcina was that Malaon was considered to be the greatest and most powerful, while the sun was also considered as the greatest diwata and was likened to Jupiter of the Romans. So si Jupiter kay equivalent ni siya sa ni Zeus sa Greeks, and considered ni siya nga king of the gods, associated with storms, with thunder, rain. So very similar later ang makita nato sa Santo Niño, associated gyapon with the skies, with meteorological phenomena like rain. And the Virgin Mary could be argued nga siya ang nipuli ni Laon, since she was also considered to be basically the equivalent ni siya ni Bathala among the Tagalogs. So si Laon was had different nga mga names across the Visayas. Sa Bohol kay magnatoy Raom nga version na ay dito sa Eastern Samar or sa Ibabaw kay she was known as Malaon, na ay other variations like Lalahon or sakang Luarca account mentioned earlier kay si Lalahon ang gi-use nga name ni Luarca. So si Makapatag on the other hand kay napod siya counterpart in the Western Visayas. So ma-mention siya ni Luarca pod, but in Luarca's account he is known as Makaptan. Pero Makaptan very similar to Makapatag, and similar ang description nga according to the anthropologist ethnohistorian nga si Felipe Landahocano, Makaptan was a sky god pod. So very similar to Makapatag in Alcina and Luarca's account. So si Makapatag naa siya'y connection perhaps with the war god Makanduk, as mentioned earlier in the webinar. Kay Makanduk is very similar to Makaandog, which is at present a folk hero dito sa Eastern Visayas. Today considered na siya as an ancestral giant, very powerful warrior nga hero, but arguably murag transformed ni siya nga version sa diwata sa una. And he is also associated with the island of Homonhon, just like Makapatag. So there is a case to be made nga possibly the pilgrimages made by the Visayan sa time ni Alcina included not only those for good health, good fortune, but it might have been in pre-colonial times before Alcina arrived, kay possibly linked to warfare pod, as mentioned earlier, nga naay mga rituals associated with warfare which involve sacrifices, including human sacrifices. So sila on the other hand, associated siya with good harvest. So when they are harvesting their rice, for instance, they would pray to Laon. But there are times nga when Laon is angry, instead of giving good harvest, kay mga locust ang iyang ipadala. So kana mga doon. So again, you have to appease, you have to venerate these deities in order that they can provide you with the good fortune you are seeking, like good harvest or victory in war. So at least these were the two. And we can actually categorize ang roles ani nga mga diwata using a theory formulated by a French nga scholar, si Georges Domizil. Nga para niya, there are three functions nga makita niya to these deities, ang mga mythology sa mga various peoples, specifically the Proto-Indo-Europeans, as he called them, including na ang mga Indians, ang mga early Europeans, nga ang ilang mga gods, ang ilang mga political leaders, mga farmers, mga priests, kay they can be classified under three functions. One is sovereignty, apil na ang religious ug political power. Second is warfare, so ma-mention na earlier nga makapatag, makandog might be associated with war. And productivity, so kanang fertility. And under this, ma-categorize nato si Malaon. So at least those two, nga, since we can link them later to the Santo Niño and to the Virgin Mary, we will highlight as the primary deities that our ancestors invoke, along with their ancestors or the umalagad ancestral spirits.
So, dahil salamat to Dr. George for explaining to us what were the deities and the diwatas revered by our ancestors before the Spaniards came. So, we have actually here in our at our basahanan, but if it runs out of copy, please just reserve it. So we have the Feast of the Santo Niño, and it mentions about the pre-colonial belief system of our ancestors. We also have here the 1521 revisited the quincentennial commemorations in the Philippines, and there are articles here about what the Spaniards saw in our islands when they came to here in our islands. And also we have this book. So this is already, we have copies of this, but a short history of Cebu from 1500s to 1890s and the anti-Spanish Revolution in Cebu. So this is also available at our Palmgras sa Cebu Heritage Hotel basahanan. So now, we would like to ask Dr. George. So after this question, stay tuned for the Babaylan dance by our Babaylan from UP Cebu, who is also a Tatak UP awardee, an awardee of Tatak UP. She received her award last December. So now we would like to ask Dr. George regarding the religious rituals performed by the Visayans during the initial contact with the Spaniards. So, by the way, daghang salamat to Julius Seno for watching from Mandaue City, Ellen from Flag Tour Guides, and Catherine is watching from Cebu City. So, we have this question for Dr. George regarding the religious rituals performed by the Visayas during their initial performed by the Visayans during their initial contact with the Spaniards.
Okay, so for the second question, what I would like to highlight is that before, ang distinction between mga solemn rituals and more festive nga mga events, ceremonies, they were not as clear-cut. Although by the time Alcina described the Visayans in the 1660s, there were apparently some distinction, mga more solemn, private nga mga affairs, and more public ones, of which ang mga babaylans were also quite prominent nga mga performers or mga ritualists. So Alcina identified some festive nga mga rituals nga conducted during certain events. So no particular nga mga dates or time of the year, but it might be based on circumstances like a time of war, or more ordinary occasions like mga weddings, especially of the Datu elites, or mga births, funerals, and ang kaniyang war nga element, there were actually two types. So for departing towards a target nga community, na sila'y gitawag nga pagdaga. So mag bloodletting na nga ritual nga ang description pagani nga Alcina kay naanay human sacrifice nga involved. Unya, upon their return, especially when they were victorious, kay napoy pagdasig nga ritual. So in both cases, kay the babaylan was involved. Kay ang ilang gi-celebrate ana ang pagkaisog sa mga warriors. So isog was a bestowed blessing na sa mga ancestor and the diwata. So perhaps like makandog or makapatag, and thus they should give thanks. Just like how today the Santo Niño, di ba, magpasalamat ta kung makapasar tag board, makakuantag trabaho abroad. So different nga mga circumstances but very similar nga function as Domicile would describe it. So mga lavish celebrations ni sila na ay inom, na ay dagang kaon, they would last well into the night or even for several nights. And this also included ang kaning mga funeral, na po yung ana nga element nga may festive siya nga occasion. And for their everyday nga mga livelihoods, na po sila'y agricultural feasts, like plowing, sowing, harvesting, nga connected gihapon siya sa pag-uma. Kay it wasn't necessarily a break, they were asking for help from the ancestors and the diwatas so that they could be given good harvest. So mag-part gihapon siya sa agricultural work nila. And the more solemn ones, more special ones, pag-anito gihapon ang tawag according to Alcina, which involved animal sacrifices like pigs and hens or for fishing mga event, but performed by the bailana. So I'm not sure why Alcina makes a distinction kay if you look at another chapter of his, he would also highlight nga in the occasion, the festive events, the bailanas were also prominent nga mga participants. And kani mas solemn kuno ang kaning ubang pag-anito rituals like mga pag-uli or kaning mga rituals for the sick nga didto ra sa house of the sick, wala kayo'y daghan nga crowd, and this also lasted for several days but with limited participation from other people. So at least these are the kinds of distinctions we can make, but it should be highlighted since we are talking about the sinulog nga dancing was also very important ani nga mga events, not only for the ordinary people, but especially sa mga bailana, kay when they are saniban, kanang inhabit sila sa spirit of the ancestors or the diwata, kay they go into a trance. And during this trance, nagdance gyapon na sila.
So, daghang salamat to Dr. George. So, we would actually know that according to, we would know from what the missionaries would say that they considered the babaylan or the religious leaders in the pre-colonial Visayas, as they called them, as charlatans. So because they would see during the ritual, the babaylan or the religious leader would be in a trance and their mouths would be foaming, and then they would have a different voice. And actually, I was so surprised because I saw that, as I mentioned in our event before, that Dr. Jojo Buenconsejo, the UP Diliman Musicology, Ethnomusicology Center, he also was former dean of the UP College of Music. He has a study among the indigenous peoples in Mindanao, and he saw a babaylan also, a bailan. It's now called bailan. And a bailan can be either a man or a woman, but in pre-colonial times, a babaylan can only be a woman or a man dressed as a woman. So there was a bailan in Mindanao, I think it was in Agusan, that really changed. He made a video out of it, that while he was taking a video, the voice of the bailan changed. And then, because they were asking permission, if they could share about their practices. So that is the situation. Like, those are the practices of the indigenous peoples until today, that they would always ask permission from the deities or the diwata for everything that they do. So in 1521, we would know from Pigafetta that there was a solemn pag-anito or pagdiwata ritual in Cebu that was described as two women. The Babaylan were two women dancing with, they had an offering food like roasted fish, rice, millet cakes, and a piece of cloth and set in large plates, and there was a live pig that was bound on the grass mat. So that's why in our Chatro Hongkera dance, you would see the pig, although mura siya bakti no kay gamay kaayo katong pig in that dance. And so they had headdresses like horns. So the interpretation of Dr. Jobers was that it was not really a horn, but it was the headdress was tied like horns. And but if you saw our video, there was really like a horn of an animal in the Babaylan in that video. And so they dance around the hog with scarves in their hand and acting like a dialogue with the spirits. So you have seen like we had diwatas there in our Chatro Hongkera portrayal, and drinking wine on their behalf and sprinkling some of the wine on the pig until the spear, the Babaylan would act like having she began a series of finds at the hog, and then later on, with a sudden thrust, it really killed the pig with a spear. So, and then in that, although we did not show it in our ritual, but they would put like the blood of the pig would be put on the forehead of those who join the ritual. So I also experienced that in a pananghid ritual in Bukidnon among the Higaonon Talaandig. They slaughtered chickens, and the blood of the chicken was put on my forehead. So that was the ritual before they shared with me their culture. So that is the practices until today of the indigenous peoples. And so our historians would say that if you want to know our pre-colonial practices, we can still see our pre-colonial practices in the practices right now of the indigenous community, especially in Mindanao. So right now, we would now witness the ritual, Babaylan ritual, or to be shown to us or to be performed to us by the Babaylan of UP Cebu. So we have with us a veteran in theater and also in ND films, and she is also a former professor of the University of the Philippines, Cebu, and she is an award-winning actress in indie films and also in Sinulog film festivals in the past. And so she is the advisor of the UP theater group Upstage. I'm not sure if I'm correct with the designation, advisor of the UP Cebu. So we have with us Professor Ligaya Rabago. She is still preparing the ritual items. So we would also know that our historians would say, for example, the father of Dr. George, Dr. Rolly, was saying that the Pagdiwata ritual being performed in 1521 that was seen by the Spaniards was not just because Pigafetta interpreted it as they can only eat the pig after the ritual. But that slaughtering of the pig is not just a ritual because they want to eat pork. It was actually, according to the interpretation of historians, that they performed that ritual because they sensed danger because of the presence of these Spaniards. That's why they performed the ritual. to the Diwata, asking for the help of the Diwata. So we would know that, of course, the Spaniards were defeated in the Battle of Mactan. And after that, after when they returned to Cebu, Humabon, who formerly had a rivalry with Lapu-Lapu, already united with, already reconciled with Lapu-Lapu, and they conspired in massacring the Spaniards on May 1. So you would see in our Chatro Hongkera portrayal of the Sinulog that it was the Spaniards who brought the Santo Niño, but the natives fought the Spaniards, and the Spaniards ran away, and now they considered the Santo Niño as their own. Although they actually destroyed the cross. They rejected the cross, but they embraced the Santo Niño. That was 44 years after. They still saw, the Spaniards saw that the Santo Niño was in one of the houses with flowers in it. It is in an altar in one of the houses of the natives. Because at that time, in pre-colonial times, our ancestors didn't have churches, didn't have churches or chapels, but they had altars in their homes. And they made anitos or umalagad. Umalagad is their ancestral spirits that they revere as like smaller gods. The supreme gods were the Diwata. And the lower gods that they also intercede, they pray to the umalagad or to the anito. So Dr. George enlightened me that anito is a term of in Luzon. And it's umalagad in the Visayas. It's the lower deity, it's the lower gods. So they pass through the umalagad to be able to reach the Diwata. So Miguel de Luarca also mentioned about the Diwata and how our ancestors had to intercede. And of course, we know that the Babaylan, and Babaylan is the one who would pray to the ancestors and pray to the deities. And my interpretation of that, although no historian said that, my interpretation is that for our ancestors, only the feminine can communicate with the gods. Because, to explain, that's my explanation why only a woman and a man dressed as a woman can communicate or can pray, can lead a ritual. Dili man pwede ang mga lalaki mag-lead sa ritual. So at that time, the women and the gays had a very high place in society. The Spaniards said that they could not identify the woman from the gay, from the man dressed as a woman. They dressed gaily. They dressed gaily, or they had very colorful attire. The Babaylan. And the Asog. The Asog was the man who was also a spiritual leader but dressed as a woman. So they had so many rituals after. So now we welcome our, please show our Diwata to the camera. I mean, the Babaylan to the camera. Pwede na to i-adjust atong camera, please. And then the music would start now. Our Diwata our Babaylan from UP Cebu, Professor Ligaya Rabago. So, daghang salamat to our Babaylan of UP Cebu for that beautiful performance and amazing performance. Magnificent. Daghan na all the adjectives. The performance of a Babaylan ritual. So, we have seen her using incense. So, it's always used actually. And also the palm leaves. Palm leaves were those also used by our ancestors. So, that's why even palm leaves were made into puso. So the palm leaves were made into puso as offering to the diwata and to the ancestral spirits. So puso making and there are different types of puso that the palm leaves were used, and palm leaves were also adorned in the Pagdiwata ritual seen by the Spaniards in 1521 in Cebu. So, daghang salamat to the beautiful performance, and you have seen her in of course, the brass items of our of the indigenous people. So until today, the indigenous people still perform rituals and dance rituals. Our ancestors always prayed with their bodies. I would say that it's actually a total performance. A ritual is actually a total performance with music, dancing, and also all the beautiful ornaments, and also food, drink, and also, of course, when the Babaylan would change the voice, so you would see that they would, according also to the 1521 ritual, they were looking up into the sky or into the sun, or to pray to the deities, and using our Bagong Teatro Ronquera used the bamboo trumpet. It's mentioned that the bamboo trumpet was also used to communicate with the gods. So daghang salamat to Professor Ligaya Rabago for those for that performance. And so here at Palmgrass Cebu Heritage Hotel, you would see her that using the beads accessories. So we have here from the Higaunon Indigenous Cultural Community in Bukidnon. So there is also a necklace. So it's actually they have sets of this. So we sold this. So one of the also theater veteran and our narrator in our video. Mayan ang Betiktan bought about how many sets of this. So this has a matching headdress, and it also has, like, you put this here. So it's matching. It has a matching headdress, and also bracelets. So di man mayo pagka. So, and bracelets, and also they call their bracelets in the Higaunon Talaandig Cultural Community, they call them as bukla, and panika is the headdress. So it's actually worn at the head, and also bracelets and anklets, and also earrings. So they have the beads earrings. So they call their necklace as salay. Salay. Ay, asa to? Mao ni siya. Oh, salay. Kini, another version of the salay. It has a matching bracelet also. So our indigenous peoples today still make, especially the Tibuli, they still make the brass bracelets. So our ancestors in the past had gold from head to toe. They believed that the gold is, aside from it looks good, they believe that the gold is an amulet. So they also believe that if they don't have gold on their body and they die, they wouldn't be able to go to Saad, which is equivalent to heaven or paradise, if they don't have gold with them. So that's why. So of course, they made sure that they would have gold jewelry with them. So that's why this is I have with me patanaw, a gold-plated brass cutlets, and a replica of the Visayan patanaw earrings. And this is made by Ferdinand Ascaraga, one of the heritage advocates, and he has also displays of artifacts there at our gallery. And this Patanaw earrings replica is available also at our Sidugatan gift from Cebu. So now our next question for Dr. George is this. Oh, thank you to Mars Bascon, a history researcher and also a student of Dr. George in masters for his masters in history. So now our next question for Dr. George is how the Santo Niño and why was the Santo Niño transformed into a venerated figure associated with rain and abundance?
Hello. Okay, so sa third question, I would argue that the Santo Niño's close association with rain and abundance might have something to do with the time of arrival sa Santo Niño in Cebu. So there might have been either a drought or it might have been a time of mga agricultural nilang mga rituals, but later with subsequent events, so it was already mentioned how the Santo Niño became a prominent figure as a Cebu, but later it became widespread devotion. So it wasn't just local, it became regional across the Visayas. So when you go to Tacloban, for instance, or you go to Panay, so these places kay puro na Santo Niño, including ang original nga Ati-Atihan was also a festival nga dedicated to the Santo Niño. Ay sinulog sa Cebu, but in Tacloban there is also the Pintados Festival nga Santo Niño de Tacloban gihapon ang kana nga festivity. So I would suggest nga the greater popularity of the Santo Niño might have something to do with the key events that took place after the Spanish arrived, including that confrontation between the Santo Niño and the Diwatas as it was perceived by the Visayans in 1621 and 1622. Okay, at that time, there were two big revolts, one in Bohol, another in Leyte, the first led by Tamblot, another by Bangkao, and these were inspired by their diwatas. Although in the records, it isn't mentioned who these diwatas were. So marag generic lang a name, but in Alcina's account, he has a very interesting depiction of the events. Kay there was a religious interpretation given to it by the Visayans. So dito sa Bohol, for instance, I think it was Lubok. Ang mga tao dito sa Lubok kay mura sila crane or murag kanabitang mo stand on one leg. Kay nagpaabot ra sila kung kinsay makadaog sa duha. Kay dito sila sa mopanig sa victorious camp. So kung nakadaog ko na to ang mga rebels, sumubalik, they would go back to their old religion because that was the demand made by their diwata. But if the Christians, the Spanish forces emerged victorious, so wala sila mahimo. They will remain under Spanish rule. And it turned out that the Spaniards were victorious, and thus that might have been the beginning of the popularity of the Santo Niño devotion in other parts of the Visayas. Kay si Juan, I think Alcazaro, the Alcalde Mayor of Cebu, who was sent to lead the native and Spanish forces to Bohol and Leyte, kay that was his interpretation. It was because of the Santo Niño that these diwatas and the rebels, including their Babaylan or Asog leaders, were defeated because of the power of the Santo Niño. So after that, there were changes na in the functions of the Santo Niño. So we can see nga he began to take on the role ni Makapatag. Kay if you recall, Makapatag, the gate leveler, ang description ana ni Alcina kay murag God of justice pud na si makapatag. So if you had a sin or an infraction, kay dili lang ikaw ang ipunish, including ang imong entire community. So he was unforgiving to anyone if that community was perceived to have committed a mistake or a sin towards the spirit world. So we can argue nga si Santo Niño is functioning in a very similar way to the king of the gods sa pre-colonial Visayans. Kay even the attire ni Santo Niño, if you notice, di ba may pagka-regal siya, it's a royal nga garb, so mara siya king pod. But at the same time, ma-associate pud siya with rainfall, with abundance, just like ang function ni Malaon, the fertility goddess based in Mount Canlaon, the volcano in Negros. So what happened to Makapatag and Malaon? They did not completely disappear. Kaya as we will see, mga other transformed versions of them continue to be prayed to. Pangajian sila sa mga fisher folk, sa mga hunters, including dito sa Samar, where si Makaandog continues to be prayed to by the hunters for catching mga wild game. Pero in Cebu, for instance, we can see a similar pattern nga mag-merge ang Christian nga figures with local figures or mga animistic nga mga deities, like an apparent thunder god nga gipangajian sa mga taga-Ulango. So if you're familiar with the Baliw-Baliw or Binaliw Festival, nanay article or study ang isa ka San Carlos pod nga professor si Harold Olofsson nga na-conflate na ang kaning sky diwata, thunder diwata with San Vicente Ferrer, but the practice or the purpose remains the same nga for abundant catch, but also to ward off illness and disasters or plagues and epidemics. Just like what happened in 1936 nga gipastop kuno ang katunga animistic practice by the priest. Ang nahitabo na ay around 50 nga children and later their parents nga nangamatay. So that's why they had to reinstate the festival in the following year. Pero this time si San Vicente Ferrer na ang ilang i-address sa ilang ritual. So for me, this is an example similar to the changes in relation to the Santo Niño and the greatest diwatas like Laon and Makapatag. Kay sila Makapatag, Laon, they were also believed to be the cause of a cholera, not cholera, but smallpox epidemic in 1596. And I think na-mention ni Ma'am ganina nga, not only smallpox, but even a strong typhoon in 1601 were believed to be punishments by the angered Laon and Makapatag, and they might have been the one that inspired the 1621-1622 revolts in Bohol and Leyte.
So, daghang salamat to Dr. George for that. So now, we would like also you to know that in this book by Dr. Rizal Mujarez, he mentioned that when the Spaniards made a procession, the first procession, when they came back to Cebu in 1565, and they got the Santo Niño from one of the houses, the natives wanted to ransom it with gold, and they said that the child is ours since time immemorial. And this was recorded by Father Chirino, a Jesuit priest. So the natives considered the child, the image of the child, Jesus, as theirs since time immemorial, and they wanted to ransom it with gold. But it was also mentioned that the natives actually asked rain from it. So they would have a procession of the natives would bring the natives would bring the Santo Niño to the sea, take off his clothes, submerge it in water until tell the image that if you wouldn't give us rain, you can't get out of water. And then they said, and then the child would always give them rain. So they would wait until rain would come before before they would remove the image from water. So so the Spaniards wanted to show the natives that we had a better way of praising the image. So they made a procession with it in pomp and grandiose procession from the ship where they put the Santo Niño after they found it in one of the houses, and they made a procession on May 15, 1565. So that's May 15, like 2 weeks after they arrived. So, but usually we don't remember it because we don't remember it that day when the first procession was done. So it was, Dr. Rizal would say that it was the beginning of the reconciliation between the Spaniards and the natives. But we would also know that was May 15. And on May 23, just a week after, the Gami it was still called Mactan at that time, Mactan Islands, Dagami, now Cordova, Dagami of Gabi, now Cordova, also launched an ambush against Miguel Lopez Legazpi, and later poisoned them. So we don't know if it's really like a reconciliation, but maybe they just watched the Spaniards give praise to one of their diwatas, which is they considered already the image of the Holy Child. It was the favorite already idol. According Pigafetta to Magellan asked the wife of Humabon, because the wife of Humabon asked the Santo Niño to be given to her. She did not, it was not freely given to her, but she asked Magellan for the image of the child to be given to her. And it became, according to Pigafetta, it became the favorite among all her idols. But later, when the Spaniards commanded them to burn their other idols, so they were also did not like it, but they kept the Santo Niño, even if on May 1, 1521, the Cebuanos and Mactananons, all Cebuanos, they massacred the survivors of the Battle of Mactan who joined them in a feast. You would see that in our gallery outside of this hall. And those who were left, Pigafetta was left on the ship because he was wounded. They were told that we are being killed. So they hurriedly left Cebu, and they saw that the cross that they planted was destroyed by the natives. So it's not the cross of Magellan that's there in that kiosk. We don't know whose cross it is. But it could be the site where the cross was planted. So historians would call it Magellan's kiosk, although it was not Magellan who built the kiosk. It was the place where the cross was planted. But of course, the Cebuanos destroyed the cross, but embraced the Santo Niño as a diwata, and a diwata of the rain. So we would like you to know also that here at Palmgrass, we have our Tracing Sinulog shirts. Experience a Sinulog right where you stay. So we have here the Santo Niño, and around her, so we would trace the pre-colonial belief system of the Visayans or the Cebuanos. We have a babaylan there, so they now pray to the Santo Niño later. So in our Teatro Junquera, so they took the Santo Niño away from the Spaniards and regarded it as and prayed to it as a diwata of the rain. So this comes in different colors, so red, yellow, etc., and white and others. So now our second from the last two questions for Dr. George. So we would like to ask Dr. George, how might the origins of the Sinulog dance be linked to the natural environment of the Visayas during the Spanish contact?
Okay,
Yes.
can I have the slides, please? So just to review, so I already mentioned how later na popularize further ang Santo Niño after events during the early Spanish period, not only in Cebu but across the Visayas and even until other parts of the Philippines like in Luzon. Pero ang origin ani, as I suggested earlier, might have something to do with the time of arrival sa Santo Niño in early April, I think April 7, 1521, ang arrival nila Magellan. And quoted here is what Ma'am Agripina mentioned earlier, ang kang Gaspar de San Agustin account nga tubson unta sa katong mga dato ang image kay para nila the child Jesus had been with them since time immemorial, and they prayed for it for good crops, so that they had abundant rainfall. So it could be nga na-timingan to nga when the Spaniards arrived, they were doing these agricultural rituals on a cyclical nga basis. So usually mag 2 agricultural cycles na, or it could be nga either during the Spanish arrival or later, there was a period of drought. So katunad when Queen Juana asked for the image, they venerated the child Jesus, but later they found nga effective siya against drought, and thus it became a favorite as mentioned earlier. So Chirino also mentioned nga it wasn't only for rain, so they prayed to it for their basic nga mga needs, offering to it sacrifices according to their way, and anointing it with their oils as they were wont their idols. So the same idols nga destroy ni Magellan as a condition for him to give the image to Queen Juana. Pero what's interesting, if you compare it with other parts of Southeast Asia, there are rituals nga very similar to the account given about how the Santo Niño would be immersed in water. So for rainfall gihapon, so rain-making rituals nga basaon, this time dili ang Christian image but an image of the Buddha. So this is in mainland Southeast Asia. So the Songkran rain-making ritual performed in places like Myanmar, sa Cambodia, sa Laos, kay middle of April siya i-perform. So if we take the April 7 arrival, marag timing ani nga time. Although I'm not a meteorologist, so dili ko kakuan kung it's the same weather pattern or climate pattern in mainland Southeast Asia and Cebu. But the purpose kay when they're praying for good rainfall and abundant harvest, kay marag para ni sa upcoming planting season. So during that festival, people cleanse the Buddha images by pouring scented water over them, and smaller effigies are often taken out of the monasteries and carried through the streets while people sprinkle water at them. So ang account ni San Agustin, very similar, di ba nga marag i-procession nila towards the sea, they won't take it out until the rains come. So para ma-open ko no ang reservoir of rain from the skies. So I would argue nga ang Sinulog dance, its origins might be linked to these rain-making ceremonies. So earlier na-argue na nga na roots sa war dance, possibly of Tausug, Mindanao origins because of the Sinulog etymology. So that's the social aspect, nga, di ba? Social conflict sa Panay, kaya it became a Moro-Christian na nga theme, ang origins of the Sinulog. But ang wala pa kayo matanaw is ang sa environmental aspect. Kaya ma-mention man nga, the Santo Niño is associated with rain. Pero how that is linked to the Sinulog dance, wala pa po ma-highlight ang role sa women. Kay ang war dance, di ba, tanaw ninyo ang video, the performers were often mga male. So where are the females sa kaning retracing of the roots sa Sinulog? And we will see nga if you look at rainmaking rituals across the world, naay duha ka component. Nagyapoy war dance, but nagyapoy mga women who perform dances, and some of the prominent figures kay equivalent po to the babaylan. So mga ritual specialist ang mo perform og mga rain-making dance or a rain-making ritual nga to seek rain from environmental spirits or the ancestors. So this was the point I was trying to make nga before. Perhaps ang ilang agricultural rainmaking ritual was addressed to Laon, pero pag-abot sa Santo Niño, kay murag na balhin na transposed to the Santo Niño ang function of providing rain. And thus, it became a locally appropriated nga deity. Kay si San Agustin even mentions nga ang naging name ko sa gigamit sa mga Cebuano to the Santo Niño was Bathala. Nga meaning ko miraculously arrived nga image ang kaning holy child. So in relation to dancing, Sally Annes distinguishes three types na ay tindera sinulog, troop sinulog, and parade sinulog. And she suggests nga ang tindera sinulog ang kanang magsayaw-sayaw dito sa Basilica and sa Magellan's Cross nga doubtful ang origin kung tinuod ba nga cross, but di ba ang practice is you don't pay her but you pay for the candle. So it's a similar nga role sa babaylan nga or sa mga tambalan karon nga dili ka mo bayad nila in kind so that they could perform the ritual. So arguably kaning mga tindera sinulog dancers, performers, kay nato sila role in the rain dance that became associated with the Santo Niño either during or after the arrival of the image. So na-mention po earlier ang mga katutubo, mga indigenous peoples. Even now, there is still this rain dances performed. This time in Luzon, dito ni sa may Angat Dam. So I think 2 years ago, na ito'y murag period of drought, ang MWSS top sila sa local community dito sa Angat watershed nga mo perform og rainmaking ritual. And if you look at the news report, mag-google ra ni siya, makita nimo ang integrated nga type of ritual nga wala pa'y solemn, wala pa'y Mardi Gras Grand Sinulog type nga buwag sila but merge sila into one. And both male and female performers are present. So na ay singing, dancing, both by men and women. Ang men, kay tanaw ninyo ang lower right, kay war dance na ang iyang gi-perform. While the women, pare-pareha sa dance ganina ni ma'am. And nagapoy inom, na ay singing. So modern na nga practice, but very similar to the descriptions of the Sinulog dance, nga na ay both war dance, but ang wala pa ma-highlight ang sayaw sa mga babaylan sa mga women as a critical important component of the original Sinulog dances.
So dahil salamat Dr. George for sharing with us how about the origin of the Sinulog. So of course we have mentioned also some in our Chatro Hongkera dance that there are two kinds, according to Dr. Rizil Mujarez said there are two kinds of Sinulog. Or Sally Ness also mentioned that. Sally Ann Ness mentioned that she had a study really. She came to Cebu and had a study of the Sinulog and mentioned that there are two kinds or three kinds of Sinulog. One is the candle vendor Sinulog. Second is the war dance Sinulog, and the third is a combination of both. So so we would say that the candle vendor sinulog can be traced to the Babaylan rituals. Dr. Risil Mujares always mentioned how our ancestors would dance when praying. They could not, you could not offer to the deities or to the diwata without dancing. You would not be heard. The diwata would not hear you or listen to you or give you favors if you don't offer to them a dance with music, with of course with food and drink and everything. So it was mentioned that there was a foreigner. So Dr. Risil Mujares in this book mentioned that there was a foreigner who came here to the basilica in the 1800s and saw women inside the church dancing like crazy, like in a frenzy, dancing in a frenzy inside the church. But later they were made to go out of the church and dance the candle vendor sinulog already with controlled movements. So unlike now, the Babaylan dancing in a trance, when they are able to communicate, when the diwata would go inside them and use their bodies to communicate with the mortals that were communicating with them. So it is now the candle vendors, you would see them very controlled movements already. So now our last question. We have our last question for Dr. George. Although there are so many questions right now online, so we would read your questions to those. So we ask our Bagyong Chatrohongkera to prepare again, because after this question, we would watch them perform again their dance. So now that we have discussed about it, the pre-colonial practices of the pre-colonial belief system of our ancestors, and also how the Santo Niño became venerated as a diwata of rain, diwata sa ulan sa mga Cebuano. So now, our last question for Dr. George is regarding how do today's Santo Niño-related beliefs and practices reflect the blending of pre-colonial traditions and Christian influences.
Okay, as I mentioned earlier, the diwatas like Makapatag and Malaon, they did not completely disappear. So among mga ordinary types, mga peasants, ang ilang mga belief system, although they prayed to the Virgin Mary, to the Santo Niño, nagapon sila yung mga religious figures that would approximate or at least be representative of a mixture sa mga pre-colonial diwatas and Christian nga mga figures. So case in point, ang mga religious cults in the Visayas. So there will be a forthcoming webinar on religious cults on the Holy Family. But an interesting aspect ani nga mga cult is nagyapon sila references to mga Santo Niño-like figures. And even mga katutubo like in Panay, na sila'y Santo Niño figure, nga marag diwata ang characterization, but if you look at the description, the association with abundance, marag borrowed siya from the Santo Niño image brought by the Spaniards. So during the revolution, mo re-emerge ni in the figure of Rizal. So kung sa una Santo Niño, mahimong prominent nga figure in local religious beliefs, si Rizal would become a sort of Tagalog Christ in Luzon, but even in the Visayas, napoy mga religious groups, mga militant religious groups like the Pulahanes, which were also quite widespread in Cebu, nga merging of Christ and a returning king. So siya kuno ang mahimong hadi sa Pilipinas as an inspiration nila in fighting the Spaniards. And closely associated with this Messianic Rizal, Savior Rizal, was the Virgin Mary, nga associated yapon with protection, with power and unity, like the inang bayan figures sa mga revolusyonaryo. So emerging na of the Catholicism sa Spaniards, mga pre-colonial beliefs like belief in amulets, and nationalistic nga mga ideas, of which ang mga religious cults today very strong gihapon na ang nationalistic fervor among these small-scale nga mga groups. And even in places like Samar, nanay belief nga si Rizal, na kuno siya sa Araw City, katong murag Biringan type city dito sa northeastern Samar. So malink gihapon sa natural environment nato kaning beliefs, and in providing a sense of unity and a sense of kaisog sa mga rebels across time and even until the present. So in relation to the Santo Niño dances, so we've already seen nga mas na fragment na siya, diba, na ang katong mga dancers nga gicast out from the church kay very frenzied ang ilang dancing before. So murag na anay attempt ang official church officialdom and even ang perhaps ang government nato in controlling or regulating these religious practices, like in the Binalio. So i-disallow to nila ang mag-cross-dressing, ang magpakita o katong manure and other laway kuno nga mga practices. But for other Santo Niño related practices and beliefs, makita na pod nato ang other changes like the Saturday solemn procession and the Sunday Grand Parade and merrymaking. So marag na further divide pa. Whereas before, kani mga feasting, kani mga religious events, kay more or less marag na merge pa to sila. So that's why it should be highlighted nga it might not have been only a war dance, na apod ang katong rainmaking ritual as an important nga element in the original, in the roots of the Sinulog dance. But we could also say nga very important gihapon ni nga mga rituals ang kaning participation in the Sinulog processions, the festivities, kay even though a lot have changed, ang atong need for spiritual connections with the spirit world, with our ancestors, and with grounding our local communities and our places of origin and their environments, kay they remain very important to us. So part na sa atong identity nga ma-remain ta grounded to where we are from, and the Sinulog has that role, di ba? Even people who have lived overseas na for several years, mubalik gyapon sila during Sinulog time. Okay, that's part of who they are, part sa ilang family traditions, and it gives them a sense of identity and gives meaning to their lives.
So, daghang salamat to Dr. George for that. And so we would entertain questions after the presentation of the Bagong Teatro Jonquera. But before that, while they are preparing, we would like you to know that we have anting-anting. So we would know that the anting-anting of the even our revolutionaries in 1898 revolution against Spain already has religious symbols on them. So if you would see the Visidora worn by our guards and bell persons there downstairs, you would see that the anting-anting of our ancestors when they fought against the Spaniards contained religious images. So the anting-anting here that we show in our gallery, and also it is now sold at our Sinugatan Gift from Cebu, it also contains the Santo Niño. But the Santo Niño has a very erect already member. We don't know, is it going to take a pee? So, or it like the rain. It would rain on you. So, I don't know why they put the Santo Niño here in the anting-anting already has the picoy is, his reproductive organ. Ingno na lang yun nato nga utin. So, it's actually the word in 1521. In the oldest dictionary, the sexual organs of the Visayans or the Cebuanes is utin. The penis is utin in 1521. And the Santo Niño here has a very prominent I don't know why. So you would see that this is sold at our Sinugatan Gifts from Cebu. So you would see religious symbols in the anting-anting of the, even until today, being used by some of the people who, someone was asking me, because we displayed anting-anting in our gallery, and someone was asking me, can you sell that? Yes, we're selling it, but no one has bought anything. So you could not use it, maybe you wouldn't use it as an anting-anting, but you can have a Santo Niño with a different image. So now we have, so do we entertain, pwede na ready na here ang atong mga Santo Niño, I mean, bagong Chatrong Care dancers with the pre-colonial Sinulog dance. But while we are waiting for them to set up, we would like to have, to greet the audience. Lani Lynn is, Eugenia is watching, magandang hapon. Sharina Pumida from Dr. Artemio Natividad. Ana Suzanne Manalili from Captain Francisco Annex SDO. Gamba Riza, watching from Aguho Elementary School, Pateros. Hazel. So later, this would be answered by Dr. George. What's the difference between Babaylan and Bailana? And Catherine is saying, rituals are celebrated or performed in the personal and communal level by the Babaylan. Ang Babaylan Rajud ang maka-perform or maka-offer. So later, we will, this would be taken up. Teresa from SDO Tapat, magandang araw. We are so thankful, we are so happy with us. I guess this is Tausug who knows those whom we met. Nadine Hubayra of the Provincial Governor's Office. I would call him, actually I called him General, and I called him General. He was with I think he was with the groups fighting for sovereignty of the Muslim people. So, but he was now, at that time when I met him, he was already working with the provincial government. And so, and other Tausug people whom we met, daghang salamat for mentioning them. Phoebe Grace and Ferdy is saying, Pagao is saying, I love Palmgrass, the Cebu Heritage Hotel, for every episode, especially this one, the Babaylan. And he mentioned this when Babaylan, Professor Ligaya was dancing the Babaylan dance. So it's the favorite now of supervisor of Araling Panlipunan of Taguig City and Pateros. Frishel Apad is also watching from BTSA. There are other questions. So we would like to introduce to you again the pre-colonial Sinulog dance by the Bagong Chatro Hongkera.
Viva Pete Senior! We are delighted to bring you Palmgrass, the Cebu Heritage Hotel's interpretation of the pre-colonial Sinulog dance. Did you know that the word Sinulog traces its roots to the island of Sulu? Over the centuries, it has evolved into two versions. The candle vendor Sinulog, rooted in the pre-colonial Cebu rituals of the Babaylan, and the war dance Sinulog, with its roots in the martial arts and war dances of Sulu. We invite you to experience the pre-colonial dance prayer. Our performance showcases the ancient deities of the Visayas, including Inaginid, the deity of war and poisons, Makandok, the deity of raids, and Barangaw, the deity of the rainbow. A Babaylan healing dance ritual, the Pangalay, a traditional martial arts and meditation dance from the Tausug of Sulu. Sulu Puntao, a sacred and deadly martial arts, Arnis, the martial art of Cebu, and the Kinampilan steps. When the Santo Niño arrived, it was revered by the natives as a deity of rain. In this version of Sinulog, the dancers honored the Santo Niño without carrying it in their arms, reflecting the early Cebuano tradition of venerating the Santo Niño in altars or carro during processions. Dance to the beat of the gong as the Bagong Teatro Ongkera dancers perform a dance of war, praise, thanksgiving, and petition to the child Jesus. Viva Pete Señor!
A round of applause again to the Bagong Chatro Kera. Although naputol atong connection to the camera no for those online. So you have seen in that version of the our interpretation of the Sinulog dance, when the Spaniards came, so they brought the Santo Niño with them, and then of course the natives fought the Spaniards, but got the Santo Niño from them and now pray to the Santo Niño. And so you have seen that although supposedly art should not be explained, so you have seen the blue, like it should have been a wave, like it should have been, it signifies the sea, that they went to already to Pangayaw or raiding after they prayed to the Diwata. So after before they go to raiding, then Visayans at that time, in pre-colonial times, their main activity or economic activity or economic political activity was raiding. They raided as far as China, as early as 1100s or even before that. They were shipbuilders, they were navigators, but before they would go to plunder other places, they would first pray to the deities, Diwata of war, the Diwata of the rainbow, and the Diwata of poisons, because they always blessed their weapons are blessed, and they put poisons on their weapons. So, and then they have antidotes also from the Babaylan. So, in that version, because Dr. Risil Muhares kept on, at first when we had the 2020 version, in our video, the wife of Humabon, Juana, we don't know, it's not mentioned what was her name before she was baptized as Juana. She was described as very beautiful, very young, with red lips, and very beautiful with long hair, etc. She was wearing a sarok during her baptism with black and white clothing, and also with gold stripes on her scarf. She was bringing with her like a crown. A sarok was described like a crown, and then so that was why you had Juana there. We had the wife, but it was Dr. Risil kept on saying during our conversations that when we discuss about festivals, how festivals began, so supposedly the festivals started in the 1980s to Judeorize the islands, and Cebu at that time was marketed as an island in the Pacific, and festivals began, and that was the Sinulog Festival. But the Sinulog as a devotion was started like in the Spanish period, and the Agustinians had a book of the miracles of the Santo Niño, along with their goal to strengthen their hold in the colony. So anyway, Dr. Risil was saying, we don't know when it started that the Santo Niño was now being held in the hands or the arms of a dancer. It was not how we venerated our God, or it was in a carro or in an altar, or even the Visayans did not carry with them their diwata where they would go. So Dr. Risil was saying in one of our conversations in September of, I think it was 2023, or at that time, or a year before that, he mentioned that it was now in a choreography in one of the Sinulog dance in the festival, that the Santo Niño was now being carried and being thrown, not thrown, but so our first version of the Sinulog, in 2020, the Santo Niño was being carried, but like a baby. So it's how being choreographed by our choreographer in the 2020 version. But because Dr. Risil Muhares kept on repeating that fact that in earlier times, the Santo Niño was not being held. It was in a carro or in an altar. So that is the reason why last year and this year, our version of the Sinulog dance is now the Santo Niño is in a carro or in an altar. So now we have the questions. We would entertain questions. So there is a question. We have the microphone there, and the one who would please introduce yourself and from where you are in your organization, if you have, and please give your question. Only one question per person, and then we don't know if we could allow a follow-up. So we would start with the question from online. So there is a question: what is the difference between a babaylan and a baylana, and if the babaylan is the only one who could offer and not anyone else? Dr. George.
There were
Maybe we have Dr. George.
some variations sa Alsina account and in others, but mainly ang gamiton ni Alsina was baylan, or napatoy another
Baylana.
Basta ang babaylan is not often used ni Alsina, although it is in some of the other accounts nga about the Visayas gihapon. So some variations, pero basically same meaning. It's someone who communicates with the spirits.
So the question, another question is, so until today, in Mindanao, the indigenous peoples use the word baylan, but they now have men baylan. So the question is, if the rituals, this is from Catherine, are they performed, rituals are celebrated or performed in the personal and communal level, and the babaylan rajud maka-perform or maka-offer?
So kato ang sa kang Alsina nga in that introduction to that chapter nga he would suggest nga the babaylan were specialists for the more solemn, more intimate nga events, but in other chapters he also discusses how important gihapon ang babaylan in the communal events, including those rituals for before and after mga raiding. So usually matagaan pod ang babaylan og spoils of war because of performing the pagdaga and pagdasig nga mga rituals. So in both, we could say nga very prominent ang kaning either old women or mga effeminate males, katong transvestite nga mga asog in performing these tasks. And in the Boxer Codex, there was even a description lang murag mas bongga, mas pompous ang performance sa katong mga bayot, mga asog or effeminate transvestite nga mga ritualists over the old women babaylanes.
Dahil salamat to Dr. George. So do we have a question from the audience? So we have Hagamba Riza watching from Aguho Elementary School. And so another, a real babaylan is watching right now. She is also a healer, traditional healer from Bantayan, Daan Bantayan, who came here when we had a discussion and we asked her to be one of our resource persons. And so we have Benjamin Gomo of the former from Pilfida. Daghang salamat for joining us. So there is another question. What is your take in one of the film entry in the Metro Manila Film Festival portraying the babaylan as a villain against the usual champion of goodness? So what movie was that, Verdi? So maybe we haven't seen that video, that film. So The Kingdom. So The Kingdom, the very controversial. Diba your father is a consultant for that? Dili day. Si Dr. Vic Villan, one of our resource persons here from the Department of History of the University of the Philippines, Diliman. According to Ferdi, that the babaylan was portrayed as a villain. So of course, from the point of view, the villain depends on the point of view of who is from which point of reference.
Maybe
so Dr.
the
George.
Enemy community, the babaylan was considered as a villain or dangerous kay sila may mo communicate with the spirits in acquiring isog ang katong valor kay again nanay spiritual component nga it wasn't just inborn imo nang pangajian mag-perform kag rituals para matagaan mog isog mapil dito ninyo ang enemy community. So perhaps in that sense the Babaylan would be considered as dangerous kay they were the ones who facilitated the transfer of isog, kaisog, valor, tapang from the ancestors or the diwatas like Makandog or perhaps Makapatag to the warriors who would attack these enemy communities.
So, of course, to the enemy of the community, the Babaylan would be, the Baylan or the Babaylan would be an enemy or the enemy because according to Dr. George, she is the one, as also portrayed by our dance, that she is the one who let the weapons be blessed or be blessed by the Diwata. So now we have a trivia quiz with exciting prize in a few minutes. So do you have a question? So we would like you to know that we have the Tibuli belts here at Palmgrass, the Cebu Heritage Hotel. Asa to akong Tibuli belt diri. So Catriona Gray was wearing a Tibuli belt, although it was of pure brass. This one, it has also bells because they believe that it is an amulet. It is an amulet against the evil or the dark or the evil spirits. The Tibuli has the red, white, and black color, symbolizing red for the bravery of the warriors, the black or brown for the earth, and white symbolizes the Pudalo or the Abaka spirit that gives them dreams of what designs to make. And also they have these bracelets, the brass bracelets made by the Tibuli. It's available at our Sinugatan Gift from Cebu. So now, and we would also like to show you the flute. So the bamboo horn was very important for communicating with the Diwata. So according to so this is now the baby flute. This is from the Talaandig and a baby flute and a bird flute. Talutagbis and Hinulagtob. So made by the flute master of the Talaandig in Bukidnon, in San Fernando, Bukidnon. Is available at our Sinugatan Gift from Cebu. I took a video, but we haven't shown it. I took a video of the Mamulalaay. Mamulalaay is the flute master. So now, question from the audience. So please introduce yourself. Junrix, yes. Audio. Wala mi kadungog. Wala ma-on ang microphone.
Lumadyo kong Bisaya. Nya, I'm a devotee of Santo Niño. Mangutana lang jud ko nga kanang this is kanang bitawng Santa Cruz that used to be Magallanes Street, di ba? Between Santo Niño, Colegio de Santo Niño og hall naman ay dalan sa una. Tungod sa Sinulog na close na nahimo ng kwan. Ang ako lang kuryoso lang yun ko. Unsa man yun nahitabo sa cross ni Magellan? Apil to kasunog. Kay people are venerating the cross really. Ang uban kay ana ilan ang kiskisan kahimuon o kana bitang panangin o ilang amulet. So unsa man gyud ni siya nasunog to siya or kuan lang na siya kanang a sort of pulley substitute.
So Dr. George will have something to say about that.
Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am, for the question. So I think na-mention already by Ma'am Agripina nga in the Pigafetta account, it was stated nga as they were leaving Cebu, they could see the natives cutting down the cross planted by the Magellan expedition. So as a way perhaps of showing their defiance of breaking the kasi-kasi or blood compact performed or ang mga ties nga they had established with the Spaniards, kay there was apparently a reconciliation man with Lapu-Lapu. So they were rejecting the bonds they had with the Spaniards, although ang Santo Niño ilatong retain kay it was the queen man who asked for it Pero in terms of the cross, ang katong marag alliance nila with the Spaniards, with Magellan, so perhaps that symbolized ang katong pagputol sa cross. So we don't know, maybe it was another cross planted by the Legazpi expedition to recreate or to replace or pulley, as you said, ma'am. But if we base it by the Pigafetta account, giputol to ang cross planted during the transit of the Magellan expedition.
So dahil salamat to Dr. George. So another historian, Dr. Jobers, was also saying that, so we would know that Father Dirada also planted a cross, but there was a fire that also happened in the area during the Spanish period. So naugdaw yun to. The kiosk was made mga 1800s. I discussed that in my walking tour. I will check my notes. Then the kiosk was made later. So maybe that's the time when the kiosk was built. So that's the time also that the cross was also done, put there. So now, do we have other questions? We have 2 more questions that we would entertain from the audience. And please introduce your name and yes.
Hello, good afternoon po. My name is John Rick. I'm from Isabela in Northern Luzon. So I can understand po Cebuano. So my question po will be in English na lang po. So again po, my name is John Rick. I'm a sound check. I'm a college instructor at the Isabela State University, and I teach readings in Philippine history classes. So a while ago, I heard the statement that the pre-colonial Cebuanos accepted the Santo Niño, but they rejected the cross. So we have Pigafetta to back up that claim. However, in most Philippine history books and classes, they would say, or they would narrate, that the event marks the beginnings of Catholicism in the country. But as what we have discussed kanina po, it says otherwise. So my question po is, what could be the best way to present these facts to our students? Lalo na po sa amin sa Norte, we're far from here. So most of the time when we teach this part of our history, lagi po namin sinasabi what happened in 1521 and 1565 was the beginning of Catholicism in our country. So what could be the best way po to present these facts in our classes? Thank you po.
So your name is?
John Rick po.
John Rick?
Yes
So
po.
you just came here for the Sinulog?
Actually po, hindi po. I just knew na sinulog po pala ngayong may other matter po ako.
So daghang salamat for joining us
Yes
here. How
po.
did you know about the event?
I saw it in a Facebook page po, and a friend of mine from here in Cebu, he told me to visit Palmgrass Hotel kasi I'm looking din po for a place na cultural and historical po.
Daghang salamat for
Yes po.
visiting us. It's our pleasure. So
Thank you
Dr.
po.
George, how can the teachers teach about this, about the Santo Niño? Was 1521 the beginning of our Catholic life, as said by Yoyoy Villame? And if you would hear the Magellan song of Yoyoy Villame, he would say, and it's the beginning of our Catholic life.
Perhaps we can portray it in that way, but must also remember nga there was that gap nga between the defeat of the Magellan expedition and the rediscovery by Legazpi. So perhaps it's the Legazpi rediscovery ang mas dapat ma-highlight dahil Legazpi used this as a justification to the Spanish king nga hinintay daw tayo ng Santo Niño na makabalik. So in terms of the official discourse, the giving of the Santo Niño during 1521 was in a way accidental. Kay Magellan did not intend to give it. It was part of the mga figures during the Mass, and somehow Queen Juana naibog siya. She was very fond of the image and continually returned to the meetings and suggesting she would like to have it, and that is why Magellan gave it. But in terms of the official nga narratives, it was Legazpi who used it as justification for coming back and formally colonizing the Philippine Islands.
So dahil salamat to Dr. George. And then, of course, you would know that the baptism that happened on April 14, a week after they arrived in Cebu. They arrived in Cebu April 7, 1521. The baptism happened April 14. If you will read Pigafetta, Pigafetta said that the chiefs and Humabon did not want to be baptized. And then so, because they were already good men, so Humabon was saying, my chiefs, because there was a, according, it's termed as Confederation of Dr. George Father, another historian, Dr. Rolando Bernaga, described it as a confederation of dato, of allies, of the leaders of the different tribes. It's not tribe, it's Gamuro or it's termed now as barangay, but at that time it's Gamuro. It's a dato has members, he has members, and that group is a Gamuro, and a confederation of Gamuro, and then Humabon was a leader of that confederation. He had chiefs as allies, and the chiefs did not want to be baptized because they were already good men. And then so Magellan was telling Humabon, you tell them that they could be killed if they don't obey. And then the king of Spain is so mighty that you can all be killed. And then so it was actually a political act. The baptism was a political act. It was, and then the period of the Spanish colonization, the period of that when they were starved and being poisoned by the Cebuanos and the Visayans, it was not actually just still an acceptance of Christianity. They saw the natives, you would see in this book, described by Dionisio C. and from archival documents, how the natives were so angry that the Spaniards, the Spanish soldiers, were digging up the graves of their ancestors. And ancestral burial grounds the burial grounds of ancestors are very sacred grounds. The ancestors were considered as gods, as also spirits, like lower than the Diwata, but also like gods. And so they saw the Spaniards desecrating the graves of their ancestors because they were stealing the gold from the dead. So it took a long time for the conversion, but they were still converted. There were Christianized natives. There were Christianized Visayans who aided the Spaniards in defeating the Tagalogs in the Battle of Bangkusay in 1571. They were already Christianized natives. So we don't know how to. We can say that, but we can say what really happened.
And also, it should be highlighted perhaps ang gradual character nga the Santo Niño might have been a local nga phenomenon pa, but with subsequent events like the early Visayan revolts, and mas na-prove pa yung power ng Santo Niño over the Diwata. So doon pa siya naging acceptable to the other Visayan communities. Whereas before, there was resistance, kaya they were still afraid of their Diwata. They still believed that they were being punished. But once it was shown the God, the Christian figures were more powerful, so doon na sila parang mas na fully sold into the colonial system, of which Catholicism was an integral tool of colonization po. But subsequently, naging atin na rin, na-embrace na rin natin as our own, including the Santo Niño. Or even those who, di ba, hihingin sana nila yung Santo Niño from the Legazpi officials para sa kanila, he had been here since time immemorial. So even in 1565, na-localize na rin yung Santo Niño, even then.
So it was really the Santo Niño, one of the tools for colonization, and Christianization is is really the most important tool in colonization in our islands. Dr. Rizal was mentioning that it was part because it was not heard of. This devotion to the Santo Niño was not heard of for like a century. Like it's already in the 1700s, and the Augustinians really had a campaign for the devotion of the Santo Niño to be spread to the different islands in the Visayas. And Dr. Michael Cullinane mentioned at a period in our history, the Retirada, when the Retirada is when the Spanish colonial rule was so weak that they had to build this baluarte. Another historian would describe the period of Spanish colonization as a Moro-Spanish wars, because it was the period of really like a struggle of the Spaniards to control the colony, while there was the Dagohoy revolt that it really weakened them. And in the Dagohoy, according to Boholanos, Dagohoy also had an alliance with the Muslims in Mindanao. So anyway, other questions? Wala na? Mag-trivia quest na. We will entertain online. Anaday, see, we have Nelson from the History Lovers of Cebu, a descendant of the Guardia Civil and also of namang kay ancestor nga ko hero in Cebu, because the Guardia Civil, those who joined the sa tatong sa nga group nga katong under the Spanish forces, but they were natives.
Voluntarios
Locales and Leales, and they defected to the Katipunan of Cebu.
I'm not sure if ni defect ba sila sa Katipunan, but maybe.
Please adjust the camera, please. So we have Nelson, Cui, Delmar. Of course, Cui, we would know that Don Pedro Cui was a supporter of the revolution. Sige.
Okay. Good afternoon, Doctor. Thank you for your discussion. I just have a question, like it's a little off topic, but I'm just wondering, because we're ethnically related to the Malaysians and Indonesians, right? So I'm just wondering what their religious beliefs before the ancient Malaysians and Indonesians. So did they had a similar religious belief with the Visayans, like with the Diwatas and belief in the ancestors?
Very similar. So even in places like Brunei, sumogyapon nga old women ay mga effeminate males. Ang wording nila is similar to the Baylan pod. Kalimot ra ko sa exact word. Nya kanagapon mga ancestor spirits, mga diwata. Although it depends which part of Indonesia or Malaysia. So kung there is a Sumatra, for instance, sagol naman na ay Hindu first, na ay Buddhist, more recent. But in terms of sa local practices, beliefs, sa ancestors, diwata, ni-merge siya with Hinduism, with Buddhism. So not only the Indonesians, Malaysians, as we saw from mainland Southeast Asia, katugyapon sa mainland Southeast Asia na sila yung mga environmental spirits, ancestor spirits, pero masagol na ang Buddha, ang katong mga Bodhisattva, pero naapoy mga spirits sa kahoy, spirits sa river, very similar to those in the Philippines. Although sa ato, Islam and Christianity ang naabot, but even sa Muslim areas, sa Christian areas, nagapoy belief in, let's say, mga buhaya as an ancestor spirit. Nga dili nila kaunon ang mga Moro rebels kay mga kaliwat to nila. Ang ilang kanon kay ang mga Christian nga soldiers. So those kinds of mga mixture. And sa ato po nga na ay ato kambal ahas, kanang snake twin, nya sa kang alsina na ay I think crocodile, murag twin crocodile nga maborn along with a child nga believed to be powerful nga potential warrior or a potential nga babaylan type figure.
So now we have this they already commented about that time when we lost the video. So there is a salamat to Nelson. So there is a question from Fe Balanta Coleta from DepEd Taguig City, and Pateros. Nasaan na po yung image ng Santo Niño na binigay ni Magellan? Yes.
I'm told nga napaghapon, but it's kept, I think, in a chapel within the basilica.
Yes,
if it is the actual image.
Yes, and they would say that actually the one that we would look at is the original image. I asked the priest when I was there, is this the original image? Yes, it's the original. It's the original image. So, question from Ferdy: what if you were asked the assessed value of the Santo Niño as a cultural icon? How would you the valuation of it? Can you put a price on it?
Priceless.
Priceless. Yes. So we have, bakit mga babae lang ang mababaylan? So I gave my interpretation of it. Maybe Dr. George has a different take about it.
Same lang, Mama. If you read the work ni Barbara Watson Andaya, she's a scholar of Southeast Asia. So she's done a lot of studies kato Indonesia, Malaysia, the Malay world. So it's the same. It's always the women. Even sa planting, it should be the women who should do the planting. The males just bore the holes before the women planted the rice. Otherwise, the harvest or the crop will fail. So it's that link between the women or the effeminate males with the spirit world. A key principle among these communities or ethnicities there is at least sa Southeast Asia.
So dahil salamat to Dr. George. So of course we would know that the Southeast Asians are not like the Europeans with the patriarchal culture. It was very scandalous for the Spaniards, the Europeans who came here to see the women now having a very high place in society, even courting men and expressing their desire for a man and experiencing pleasure. So it was unthinkable for them. It's not allowed for women to be pleasured and also to have like a high place in society. You would know that in our previous discussions, and we have another discussion about that on February 14. So last question, we have, is there, from Las Piñas historian. Las Piñas historian is, I always say this when I read, I don't forget his first interaction with us in our discussion on Rizal Loves Cebu, Cebu Loves Rizal. Ang question yun ni Las Piñas historian is this: paano ba makukuha ang puso ng isang Cebuano? O Cebuana? Or paano ba makukuha ang puso ng isang Cebuano or Cebuana? And that question has never been answered even until today. Like, it's 2 years already, this question. So anyway, the question now of Las Piñas historian is there any name mentioned for the pre-colonial Santo Niño? Is the Santo Niño another name for it, or what is it? Or what is it? Was there a name given to the Santo Niño?
So there's this Santo Niño figure sa Panay Bukidnon, but I would argue nga it might be a recent na appropriation among these groups. Kay as I've shown, the Santo Niño, at least in Cebu and in other parts of the Visayas, the Santo Niño looks like a merging of kato ang role ni Makapatag, the God of justice or God of typhoons, God of rain, and so on, and Laon, who was the provider of fertility goddess, provider of good harvest nga sa kang Laon sila mga G for good crops. So in a way, the Santo Niño is a sort of hybrid version of those two, ang katong mother and child. Although the Virgin Mary is also a sort of counterpart to Laon. So I would argue that there's no specific counterpart sa Santo Niño in pre-colonial times, but the Santo Niño became a sort of merged version of figures like Makapatag, God of justice, God of magpunisher nga God, like kinsa ni sa mga Hindu nga katong destroyer nga God, so a bit like that. But Laon, the provider of good harvest. So ang Santo Niño marag ana pod ang iyang function. So it's a bit of both siya.
So it's not recorded, it's not mentioned by the priest even. What name did the natives give to the Santo Niño when it was with them?
Again recently nga, at least si San Agustin, but he was writing in 1698, so it's not clear what his sources were. Pero he used the word Bathala, which if you look at other accounts, Bathala is mainly a Luzon, Tagalog nga word for their greatest nga deity. But somehow, he claimed nga Bathala was used as a name for the Santo Niño between the 1521 and 1565 nga rediscovery. And the supposed meaning was miraculous image that arrived. So that was the meaning, at least given by San Agustin an Agustinian priest. Ang sila may administrator sa Santo Niño, so there might be something to it, although it's very difficult to verify.
Yes, and Chirino Chirino would refer just to it as a holy child, right? The holy child. So now we now come to the trivia quiz with the exciting prize. So first, we would like to ask this to those on site. If you want to answer, you raise your hand. The first one to raise his or her hand would go to the microphone and give the answer. Give also your name. So the prize for this is a Pretty Tit cocktail. So we don't know. Are you already students who are still here? Can you already take cocktails with alcohol, with fruit liquor? So dili pa pwede na lang cake of the month na lang sila. Ang pwede ra to atong sa ulog cake, if not dili pwede ang Pretty Tit cocktail. So it has rum, so it has rum and tropical fruit juice. So the question is very easy. If you have been listening, in the past, the students actually would take down notes. Did you take down notes? So so if you can't take cocktail, you can have the smoothie or the cake of the month, which is saulog cake. Ma-sure na to, Michael, or do you have it there? Kung in case ang mudaog student ba and can take the dark rum with tropical fruit juice. So pwede sa di kamoy mudaog, di sa students, but you can raise your hand. Name one diwata or deity of the Visayas. Di ka pwede Raul, kung ano ka, Hall of Famer. Give chance to others. Sige, kinsaman. Who would like? Sige, si teacher. Sa to yung name ni mo?
Hello po again, my name is John Rick. One diwata or deity of the Visayas was Makapatag.
Congratulations! Congratulations for winning the Pretty Tit. So Pretty Tit is actually the sound of the whistle, or how the Cebuanos would the music of Sinulog. Congratulations for winning. Please take down his name, and he will claim his prize at Hardin Dagami or Kapihan ni Lumaya. Na-take down nato yung name. So please take down his name. To our team here, nga naadiri, to si Kuan, please get the name of our winner so that we can announce it, or our team, the Hardin Dagami or Kapihan ni Lumaya would be able to know. So the next question is answered through the comment section of the Facebook Live event. Everyone can answer except ni teacher, because teacher has already won. Give chance to others. So The pre-colonial, so this is the question. Your prize would be, the prize would be a hulum kawa or an instruct from our Alima Native Massage. Our Alima Native Massage with the modern day babaylan would give you a healing prayer and oration. And Raul has experienced already the hulum kawa because he won in the past. Yes, and we should feature your photo while you are in the kawa. We should feature it in the page. So, yes, he was in. You can have the tinola, hulum kawa, lemongrass and ginger, or sea salt, dinagat, hulum kawa, or flower hulum kawa, or walk bath. So the question is this. The pre-colonial Cebuanos revered the Santo Niño as a diwata. What was the main favor? Main na lang ni kay favor, daghan mo na. The main favor that they asked. Comment section of the Facebook Live event, ang answer. Di wala internet? Alo, Facebook Live, karon the online can also answer. So it's for the online and on-site. So unsay answer nimo? so you would actually experience this in the when you get hulum in the kawa. So this is really for the Santo Niño, right? You immerse in water like the Santo Niño. But this is warm or hot water. Not really hot, but it's just tolerable. So be like the Santo Niño in the pre-colonial Santo Niño. So the answer, the first one to answer is, so we have correct answers for the name of the diwata: Laon, Magwayen, Rochelle Danica Dibdib. Is from Don Bosco? From which school? From from the Cebu Association of Tour Guides. So congratulations for knowing the answer. That it is diwata of rain, and they ask for rain from the Santo Niño. Jewel Gahudo, maayong hapon. Cyril saying rain. Catherine rain. Ferdinand rain. Favor for the victory of war. And Dioben is make it rain. It's a song. Make it rain. Is it raining? Is it raining men? and Hazel saying rain. So congratulations everyone. And so now we will have the closing words. So we invite you once again. January 25 is our conversations with University of San Carlos Professor Laila Labajo on the cults of the Holy Family. And that's on January 25, Saturday at 3 p.m. And we will have on February 14, Iyot og Pangayaw, sex and braiding in pre-colonial Visayas. And also we have the anniversary of our Kapihan ni Lumaya on February 28. And stay tuned for our other events, upcoming exciting events at Palmgrass de Cebu Heritage Hotel. And so we have the closing words from Dr. George Emmanuel Borinaga.
Thank you, ma'am, for once again inviting me to be part of this event and for the opportunity to share my research. And I hope the audience continues to support events like this. We can get to know more about our history, our culture, and can also contribute to the further development nato there sa Cebu and sa Philippines. Thank you, ma'am.
Maraming salamat. Thank you to our partners, the Trust de Abril Foundation Incorporated, with the Central Galeria Independencia, with the Central Visayas Association of Museums, and the Diandi Heritage Center. Pit Senior natong tanan, so we hope to celebrate Sinulog with renewed awareness of its history and origins. We show you again our 2020 version, the video of our 2020 Sinulog dance by the Bagong Teatro Hagkera of 2020. Daghang salamat og Pit Senior.
Thank you.